Jeff has been delivering a version of today's speech in schools and service organizations across the valley since 2013. Through his involvement with the Joe Foss Institute and their VIP, Veterans Inspiring Patriotism program, Jeff helps advance their mission to elevate civics literacy for our nation's youth. In honor of Veterans Day, Jeff hopes to highlight the very birth of freedom in the United States, as well as the heavy price paid to earn and continue to maintain that freedom every day. Please help me welcome Jeff Eshelman, The Heavy Price of Freedom. The Heavy Price of Freedom. Jeff Eshelman.
Thank you, sir. That is a 35-pound rucksack, and I guarantee you, 1 mile into a road march, that feels like 135 pounds. They say that freedom is not free. My question is, if it's not free, what was the price, and who's been paying it? This ruck for me is an example of a heavyweight burden that many soldiers have carried throughout the ages, including myself, this very ruck. Today, if we're going to talk about freedom, I think we need to start at the very beginning, what I would consider the very birth of freedom in our nation. Imagine yourself, go back to that very first Continental Congress, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, 1774, in a building not much bigger than we're in right now, with a group assembled just about this size. Everybody from John Adams to George Washington. What were they deciding? They were making a decision about a revolution. Can you imagine the heavyweight price of making a decision on revolution? Could you imagine taking a vote to vote that what would end up becoming a declaration that says, we hold these truths to be self-evident, where all men were created equal in the pursuit of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. To me, that's what freedom means. This flag, this is one of the most iconic symbols of freedom known around the entire globe. This morning we took a pledge. We said, I pledge allegiance. It's that brand of allegiance that was beating in my heart when I decided that I wanted to serve. Now for me, I joined the United States Army in 1988, before I'd even graduated high school. I was patriotic, I just wanted to do my time. I only wanted to do 2 years. Anything that you were going to do for 2 years had to be combat related. I like the outside, I like hunting, I like fishing, so I chose the infantry. Well, little did I know how much outside I was about to see. So I was off to basic training, Fort Benning, Georgia. That's where I was introduced to this. As I said, 35 pounds. Now that is somewhere between half and the whole amount that a soldier would need to carry for any given mission. But that doesn't include the weapon, the water, and the ammunition. At the end of basic training, you'll carry this ruck on a little initiation. To me, that is the example of freedom that is earned through discipline. I had joined a very peacetime army in 1988, but while I was in, Saddam Hussein invades Kuwait. So I found myself in Saudi Arabia. So for the first 5 months, that was what they called Desert Shield, protecting our interest in Saudi Arabia. Let me give you a few fun facts about those 5 months in Saudi. I could count on 2 hands how many hot meals I had in 5 months. What do you get? You get what they call MREs, meals ready to eat. Let me put this in perspective for you. Today I weigh 220 pounds. Much like Paul, when I came back, I weighed 165 pounds. Another fun fact, never saw an ice cube in 5 months. We would hang our water bottles in a wet sock so that the wind would blow across the sock, and the water would be slightly less warm than bath water. I ended up driving an armored personnel carrier into the Euphrates River Valley in Iraq for what was Desert Storm. This ruck is an example of not only the burden that I carried in that war, but it's the example, and many have been given today, of what it is for any given soldier to carry this burden. I was 20 years old when I was coming back from Iraq, and I knew that I'd done and I'd seen the worst things that I'd ever seen in my life. And today, more than 30 years later, that is still true. The ruck represents the heavyweight price of freedom, the heavyweight price that it took for those that decided that this country and what it would be. For individuals like myself and like the other veterans in this room that have spoken today. And while I've been given this speech and throughout this day, there's soldiers, there's sailors, and there's airmen, men and women, across this entire globe that keep us free while we're in this room. Today is Veterans Day. And I really appreciate the gratitude that everybody's shown. This would be a great day to exercise that gratitude, like's been mentioned, to other veterans. Because I like what Ronald Reagan said. Ronald Reagan said, freedom, it is a very fragile thing, and it's only ever one generation away from extinction. It must be fought for and it must be defended. To me, this ruck represents the price that veterans have paid and are still paying today. Thank you.
Please take one.
Thanks.
Vote for the best speaker, the most improved